Hello everybody, and a very warm welcome to you to the launch of the new book Aging Well by Dr. Francis Macnab. Hi Francis.
Hello.
Great
hello.
to be here with you.
Thank you.
Also with us this morning, Steve Biddulph, well-known author and recently retired psychologist. Steve, welcome to you.
Thank you.
Coming to us through the technology of the internet. We do wish we could all be together in person, face to face and eye to eye, but unfortunately it's strange days, isn't it, Francis, with the way things are at the moment. So we are here to launch your new book, Francis, Aging Well, and it's a great honour to have you all with us, and we're going to hear a little bit from Steve and also from Francis. Steve, I guess that's all I have to say as an introduction. Over to you.
Hello, everybody. It's an incredible honor to be helping to launch this book. When I was a teenager, or really a lost boy, riding the train every day from Frankston, shambling my way through the CBD to university, where I knew no one and didn't know how to get to know anyone, there was a little corner of the world that exuded some warmth. It was the Presbyterian book room, where the books and the posters spoke about belonging and purpose and self-exploration, and up the road, St. Michael's Church. I was a Uniting Church kid, and so I knew you could go in there and not be turfed out. The billboards were gutsy and real. You knew something heartening was going on in there. When I started towards psychology and counseling, Ken Miller was a beacon. I knew it spoke a different language to the rats and stats focus of psychology at the time. In the years after, when I visited Melbourne, I would drop in and hear Francis preach and be refreshed and warmed by the depth and heart and the radicalness of his message. The thing is, even then, Francis was old. He's been old for 25 years. Dr. Francis Macnab embodies what this book is about. He is doing old age with more panache and grace and power than anyone in Melbourne. You have to admire the gumption, a quality that age done well really can release in great supply. Who else would have had the guts to decide that Christianity itself needed a root and branch renovation? Who else would have told Moses that he had lost the plot and that we needed 10 better commandments? Because Francis wasn't just saying, let's revise the 10 commandments. I can picture him standing at the bottom of Mount Sinai saying, look, these are just not good enough. Come back with something a bit more inspiring. And how right he was. No faith tradition can replace real love with a dusty rule book and expect it to serve humanity. When you're old, your job is to point these things out. In the book, Francis tackles so many facets of aging well, but it's impossible to summarize. But the core message is on every page. You have to decide what kind of old age you want, and not be a passive subject dribbling on a couch, sinking into negativity and bitterness. It's not about you. We have a job to do for as long as we draw breath, and that is to uplift and help everyone who comes to us, to embody peace. The book challenges the basic assumption of old age in our culture, that it's to do with decline. Instead, it looks deeper to see that it's about shedding, healing, letting go, being honest about things for the first time, winnowing, seizing the steering wheel of life with absolute resolve. I want to tell you very briefly two pieces of research that clearly prove this point. Scientists not long ago realized that menopause occurs in human beings because without old women, without grandmas, children in most societies rarely thrived. And a generation that had passed being young and fertile had to stick around and make all the difference. Every sustained culture in the world reveres its old. not out of sentimentality, but because they hold the keys to survival. Brain studies show that as we age, we slowly lose short-term memory. So I can't remember when I go upstairs why I went upstairs. But we more than compensate by a huge growth in a part of our brain that deals with what's called pattern recognition, that says, I've seen this pattern before. This has happened before. This Prime Minister that we're stuck with has the same twisted grin as that real estate agent who conned my mum and dad when we were kids. That's important to take note of. Old people prevent disasters happening to the young. Purpose is what old age is about. Francis embodies that. And in the book, he shares how he does it and how he helps others to do it. I do recommend that you have a read. Thank you.
Oh, Steve, thank you. You're being very generous in saying those words. And I hope more people will realise that we don't have to do ageing passively. We can age more intelligently. We can learn ways to adapt to the difficulties that ageing has, the losses, and the problems we face. We've got to see that this can be done much more positively, intelligently, and enjoyably. And I hope that people who can pick up the book and read it will find a few things there which will help them see how this can be done. I've covered many topics in the book that people can relate to very quickly, from how to handle your losses out there and how to handle your losses in yourself, how to look after the end time when you're having to face the end of your life, and what you might do that, how you might do that better, differently.
I think that there are two kinds of people who come to this stage of life, and I'm only speaking as a 67-year-old, but really feeling that the approach of losing some of parts of my abilities and finding new things in their place. But I think there are two kinds of people. Some people who've already had a lot of spirituality and reflection in their lives, and so they feel very much that they belong in the world. And I don't worry about those people so much. But a lot of people have rushed through life, and they've carry a lot of baggage, and Francis refers to this in the book. And so old age kind of comes at them with a shock, and it's full of regret and even of bitterness. And I think the book serves as a kind of a rescue package for someone who is almost startled by the sudden shadow of life coming to an end, and can help them to, it's never too late. I've heard of people who've changed. I think Richard Rohr says he's seen people change in the last hour of their life. They've woken up to the beauty of existence and of meaning. And so for most of us who've hopefully got a year or two still to go, the book can make sure that we get a good hold of life's meanings at a time that's really what it's all about. I'm sorry, I might be rambling a little bit, but I hope that makes a bit of sense.
Yes, it does. Of course, one big issue in ageing is what we do with our memories. We're carrying many memories along the pathway with us. We worry about losing our memory, but we also are tangled up with memories that in the present time. How do we lessen our memories? How do we cope with memory? How do we make our memories more pleasant for us? Because some of us are carrying some terribly difficult and even angry memories of the past.
Yes, that was a part of the book that I really got a lot from, because it feels like a putting to rest of much of your life, of knitting up the unraveled ends of things, and bringing some forgiveness to yourself and to those around you. And I really like that. It felt like it was a lightening. That the last 5 or 10 years of life should be a lightening of the load, and really stepping into a brighter and more peaceful way of being. Am I getting that right, Francis?
Yes, you are. In one part of the book, I talk about how we might soften the sharp edges of life, the difficult memories of life. How we can soften those, and that's very important as we get older. Otherwise, we're carrying a burden, and we tend to say old age is a terrible thing, whereas it can be much more enjoyable. How to do aging intelligently, how to do aging enjoyably, how to do aging with pleasure.
Yes, I have a particular interest from my own writing in the problems between fathers and sons, and that sometimes it's a very important conversation for the sons who are maybe men in their 40s and 50s to talk to their fathers who are much in coming to the end of life, and to get to understand them and to realize that the rifts between them weren't necessary and can be mended, that we can fix a lot. We can fix a lot of damage and undo a lot of hurts with those with our sons and daughters, because none of us were anywhere near perfect as parents. And so having conversations with people, letting them know how much we love them, and saying sorry for where we got it wrong, doesn't just make us feel more at peace, but it frees them to live their lives as well.
It's important too to let yourself realize that you can let some of these experiences go. You don't need to hang on to them. You don't need to keep bringing them up. At some point we need to say, well, I've spoken about that. Now how can I build better things into my life? How can I build enjoyment into my life instead of carrying this baggage, as people often talk about, all the baggage? How can I construct and develop a better old age? Do we have an ideal of what our old age should be like? Because often we look at people and say, I don't want to be like him. I don't want to be like her or them. How can I do it better? So often we say, well, don't talk to me about old age. It's a terrible thing. Instead of, how can we do it so that we can say, no, it's a pleasure to see how I can now do it differently. Adapt, grow even in old age. Is that possible? I think so.
Francis, before we have to finish up, I have one more question. And there's a huge amount of effort and thought that's gone into this book, and you've written many books in the past. What motivated you at the age of 88 to sit down and want to put all this into print? Can you tell us what was driving you?
Well, I needed to look at my own aging and see what could I tell myself about the aging process, and could this be helpful to other people? And so I tried to tease out various aspects of the aging process that people could read in just small snippets. As we get older, we don't want to read, many of us don't want to read large volumes. We want to find something that we can grab hold of very quickly and say, that speaks to me, that's helpful. How to plan a celebration of life. At what age? At any age. How to look to the future. How to help me grieve for some of the things that have happened in the past, and how do I now turn myself around and develop a different way of living. Find a way to say, what can I do now that can make myself feel it's been a worthwhile journey? And so I'd like to thank you Steve, for helping me do that and bring this whole idea more eloquently to people's attention, so they can see that here is something we can do and do it positively, rather than shy away from it and say, I don't want to be like that, I don't want to talk about that. Yes, let us talk about it and see how we can do it and do it better. We can all do that. So thank you, and thank everybody for watching us.
That answers it really well for me, Francis. Thank you. It's the positivity of the book. You use the word bliss, and bliss isn't a word that comes up in people's thinking about old age, but you're raising the bar and reminding us that this can be the best time of life. And of course, as almost everyone in Melbourne and much of Australia knows, you embody that yourself. You're a real beacon of old age being done well. So the book has enormous credibility from the person behind it. And so we've probably run out of time. And so just to say thank you to everyone, to Dean and to Iona, and really encourage people to get hold of this book and benefit from what it has to say. Thank you so much. Goodbye.